at least is staying quite kind towards the finish for us. 16 seconds. It looks as though we may have now witnessed the cracking of that Roach group. They came very close, so close, and in the best possible manner. And this is further up. This is Rolf Sorensen in the lead. Still wondering why they haven't caught him yet. He's just kept the tempo going. Indurain has joined the other two. So this has split the breakaway now. Completely, in fact. 4 of the riders have gone forward. We've got 3 of them here. Sorensen is up ahead. This is the end of the steep part of the climb. We go round this bend and then there's a chance to settle in a little bit. Snip it up to a little higher gear. There we are, confirmation of the group chasing, Quillion, Argentin, Indurain. And a look down the climb. There are the 4 chasers. So there are 2, there they are 2. There's 2 riders dropped off from the back of the remaining 6. Stephen Roach is in that chase group, so too is Eric Van Lanker, I saw. And the crowd appreciating good, honest effort here by the 3 leaders. Just ahead there, you can see Rolf Sorensen. So they're going to catch him exactly where I would have thought he would have planned to have been caught, right on the top of the climb with the effort over. A chance to recover, because we're off to a sharp right turn, down some narrow roads, very narrow roads in fact, and a short descent before we climb the Côte d'Ornay. Plenty of time to get a few deep breaths in. It's interesting to see now that these 4 riders have got clear. Stephen Roach will be kicking himself at missing this. There's Sorensen, and they're coming right up alongside him. He won't be too unhappy. I don't think Rolf attacked at that point to think of winning the race. I think he attacked because he wanted to make sure he could climb over the top of the La Redoute, at least with the leaders, and that's exactly what's happened. Look, he's under the top of the banner there, which is at the top of the hill. He's now rejoined by 3 more of the breakaway. Indurain is the first to him, followed by Cordy, and then Moreno. And there we are, the flags of the nations: Denmark, Italy, Belgium, and Spain. Look down the road and see what's happened. They've opened a reasonable gap, but it's not over yet by any manner of means. That's about 10-12 seconds. I wouldn't think it's much more than that. Well, I can see Stephen Roach and I can see Eric Van Lanker down there. Oh dear me, the motorbike rather spoiling the chase here. He's getting far too close. It's always a problem. And this is the narrow stretch of road I was telling you about. Just 27 kilometres now to go. Rouvy is where we are. Really, there's no such place of note. There's just these couple of farmsteads, and then we're out again, back in the country, which is where the leaders are at the moment. And they're straight back into the stride here. And Sorensen is looking very, very strong today. This has been one of his finest rides, and he's pulled off 1 or 2 in the last 12 months racing. Argentin, 2 climbs still to come, Luck, and 2 super climbs. Well, the Côte d'Ornay is not a great climb. It's a main road climb, but time is running out for Quillion. He really will need to be away before the finish, I feel. Otherwise, the advantage is bound to swing across to Argentin, or even Sorensen if he gets his chance. And let's not forget Indurain. I think he'll have to attack too. It was his teammate last year who attacked on the Côte des Forges, Pedro Delgado. He got away too, but they brought him back before the finish. There's Rolf. Started off as a pro when he was only 20 years of age, Rolf Sorensen. Finished 9th in Milan San Remo in 1986, but he never won a race at all that year. Stephen Roach, Marina Laggeretta here, so this is the chase group now. Laggeretta, Roach, Van Lanker, And look, they're nearly on. They're very, very close indeed now. And Roach is driving the train here. There could be a regroupment here of at least 4 of them. Alcala is the other one. And so that means that Brunel and the Naki Gaston have been shed on the climb of La Redoute, and as far as we know are out of the hunt now. There's Raoul. It's a very sharp right-hand bend, this one. Well, they made it. And then they'll run out onto the main road. For a moment or two, they'll have a good road with a strong descent down to the start of the climb of the Côte d'Ornay. So Alcala showing us he's got some good form, so too Steven Rhodes. Van Lancker putting up a determined defence of his championship, which he won in the A's last year. We're back up with the leaders now, and they seem very cool indeed. This is Argentin taking the last bite of the day and washing it down with a drink before the finish. 25 kilometres to go. Claude Coquillon now set to leave the Ardennes on a high note. Well, this has been a very, very good race, Liège-Bastogne-Liège. You can't fool the hills, and you've got to have the strength if you want to take part at the front of the race. There's the chase group, and there's the official gap of 15 seconds. So close. They're obviously both riding in 2 groups of 4 at virtually the same speed. Roach is doing a lot of work down there, so too is Van Lancker. And if only they could just close that gap. Sprimont is where we are. 24 kilometres from the finish. Miguel Indurain here sitting at the back. Now I wonder what he'll try Indurain, because he's been the quiet man of this break. He was the last one to get across to it. He also is not a fine finisher, so he'll need to break clear, and time is running out. Looks like the last assault will have to come on the Côte des Forges. Stan Ocker will be watching over them in what is a magnificent memorial to the great Belgian cyclist of the 50s. And we're 1.3 kilometres before the next climb. Indurain was supposedly to be the man of the early season until he took ill. Pedro Delgado, team leader, wanting a quiet start to the season. Hopefully so he can have a more serious crack at the Tour de France. Of course, he always upsets the Spanish people when he doesn't ride his native Tour of Spain, which he's not going to do this year. There's the next climb, takes us up to 280 metres. It's a main road climb, we're on it now. Very, very wide road. And it is perfectly straight, so you can always see the top. And look at this, Coquillon setting the pace and keeping that rhythm going. He's been a marvellous mountain climber over the years. When he came to the Tour de France, for a while he was rivaling the other climber from the Belgian countryside, Lucien Van Impe, 6 times winner of the King of the Mountains in the Tour de France. And Crick looking down, he must have seen that chase coming up surely on this long straight climb. But they're just keeping the tempo going. The attitude seems to be the others can catch us if they can. Argentin setting the pace again, so and Crick is going to launch an attack. He's gone late on the climb, but Sorensen and Argentin are both straight onto him. Well, Crick has kicked hard there, but Argentin has come rather arrogantly up alongside him again. His face hasn't even altered in expression. Now, that's the sort of thing that Eddie Merckx would have done, I have to say. He would have just come up on his rivals like that and said, "Are you serious?" And that's the way Argentin has countered that move. And Crick keeping the rhythm on, but he has been countered by Argentin and the other two. Sorensen was watching very alertly as well, because he went almost at the same time as Crick did. And so they resume the rhythm of working it out together once more. Sorensen following now the wheel of his team captain. Sooner or later they're going to have to make a decision here to see which one might be thinking of the victory, because there isn't much time left. I think Miguel Indurain will be feeling very pleased with his performance today too. This is back in the chase group. Raul Alcala doesn't seem to have done too much work in this group since he came across, because each time we rejoin the group, Raul is sitting at the back there. So too Lajaretta. These two at the front seem to be doing most of the work. Lanka and Stephen. It's 13 seconds. It's been an awful lot of work just to nip off 2 seconds, hasn't it? Lajaretta going through now also. It's still possible because they're over the top of the Ornay. We have a little bit of a drop, then we swing right and a steady little drag, and then we'll start the last climb, which is the Côte des Forges. It is not a nice climb. It is not a main road climb, by the way, but the nice thing is the riders know it's the last one of the 10. It's 2.1 kilometers long, by the way, and it takes us up to the 253 kilometers point, which will mean once at the top, 14 kilometers remain, and there's the gap. You can see them and they can't reach them. Well, it's been a long time since we've seen a good hare and hounds pursuit like this. 3.3 kilometers to the Forge. Still, Coquillon will not give up here. He's trying desperately now, and he must be having to think exactly how he's going to outmaneuver this lot. 15 seconds. They've lost the 2 seconds they gained. 1 minute 38 back to the Motte Anderson group. So they're out of it now, I'm afraid. That's been a good chase too, because they've never conceded to this breakaway at all. The pressure's quite clearly stayed on. I don't know how many's left back in that group, but I would think there must be a lot of riders now shed out of it. There's the sharp right-hand turn, which will take the riders on Little Link Road across to the parallel main road, which will carry the race up the Côte des Forges. The Côte des Forges, by the way, is a very early climb in the Flèche Wallonne. It comes after just a few kilometres, and therefore it doesn't really feature in that race at all. But in this race, it's the very last climb, and it always features. Stephen Roche determined to try and finish this off. He's doing a lot of work in this breakaway. 19 kilometres to go to the finish now. Dolenbreu is the town we're passing through, or the housing area at least. There's Van Lanker, who seems willing to, and Lajaretta is working much better now as well. These are the 4 leaders. Each one of them are willing to keep up the pace. There's nobody actually shirking his duty here in this breakaway. It's quite clearly the 4 strong men have established at the front. It's a question of whether they can hold off that determined effort from Roche and co. Seventh time that Liège-Bastogne-Liège has been held, and the weather at least is staying quite kind towards the finish for us. 16 seconds. It looks as though we may have now witnessed the cracking of that Roche group. They came very close, so close they must have felt they could reach out, because 13 seconds on a climb like Ornay was not far at all. But now it's dropped back to 16 seconds and they're on the flat roads. They're also out of sight here for a while, and that makes it even harder. The Côte des Forges will give us all of the answers, because if this group is still clear by 15 seconds at the top of the Forge, then I'm sure it will fight out the finish. Well, Moreno Argentin has all too often showed us the great sprint finish he has. He knows if these four come down together, it must be swinging in his favour. He's the hot favourite. That's where we are now, heading up towards the final climb of this year's Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Climb number 10. And the PDM team manager, Jan Gispers, up alongside Raul Alcala. And I wonder if he said to Raul, look, just make a big effort and get across to that gap. You've nothing to lose. There's been no shortage of firepower there from Stephen Roach. And you saw that gap open. Raul just let Roach go in. And now Walter Plankert having a word too with Eric van Lanker. We're on the forge now for the leaders, and there's a lovely crowd here enjoying the climb. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll see the actual monument of Stan Ockels because of the crowd. It takes us up to a height of 301 metres. A big crowd here. They've all come out to see the kill, I suspect. Well, it's a pity that we won't see the memorial to Stan Ockels because of the crowd, but they're over. The memorial is over on the far right by the finishing line. But this is the last chance now for Coquillon. He's setting the pace too, but he must know that setting the pace is going to be all that Argentin wants. He'll sit around there behind him. In fact, he's riding alongside him as if to discourage any thought of attack. Indurain also riding close too. And the weak link appearing to be Sorensen, but having no problems sitting there at the back of the four. Indurain pedalling a visibly lower gear than the other two. Well, this is one of the sharp bends here as they start the climb up towards the summit now. It's about 1 kilometre from the top here. So no sign of an attack coming. So it looks as though Coquillon has felt obliged to allow this race to come down to a sprint finish. His big attack coming on the Côte de la Redoute and fail there. Now there is the chase group. It's a long way back now actually, because this is quite a steady drag, and I would say around 18 seconds that gap. 4 of them still together, and Indurain dictating the pace now. Sorensen looking good once more. This has been one of Ralph's best rides, I would say. Or Rolf Sorensen's best ride I've seen. He's riding with such great confidence after that wonderful finish to the season last year. And just look at this too, it's even causing a little bit of pain up here. So Sorensen stretching, and Coquillon marks him very, very quickly indeed. Taps out the rhythm alongside him. And the face on Argentin really looks as though he could play a game of poker. And another big crowd. Well, it wasn't possible for this crowd to transfer from La Redoute. That so often happens in Paris-Roubaix, where the crowd see the race go by and race across little tracks to find another section where the race is. But you can't do that so easily here at this stage of the race. So this has been an excellent day for the public watching the race. It's a tremendous atmosphere in Belgium, cycle racing as popular as ever. Although the crowd always bemoaning the fact that they can't find a replacement for Eddy Merckx. There was a period of some 8 or 9 years when Eddy Merckx was winning everything that they really did enjoy following the sport. And these 4 riders almost at the top now. The gap, if anything, has slightly widened behind. So we're looking now at the 4 riders who are going to fight out the finish of the 77th Liège-Bastogne-Liège. And Rolf Sorensen, the World Cup leader, is in a tremendous position now to go towards the Amstel Gold Race with a big lead in this competition. And after the Amstel Gold Race, you then go into the big tours, which of course aren't part of the World Cup, and then the World Cup is resumed with the Wincanton Classic in England. so. Killian continues to look over his shoulder. The sign of a man who now feels he's going to have to take on these riders in the sprint, and let's hope he feels inspired. He's got all the reason to do well. The last time he'll come over the Côte des Forges in anger. Claude Coquillon retiring at the end of this year after 13 years as a professional. He'll be missed in the big peloton, just like Sean Kelly will, his mate, when he retires shortly. Over the top of the Côte des Forges, and look to me there as though Rolf Sorensen was feeling quite pleased about that. Now, what are the two Ariostia boys going to do? This is the second group here. Van Lancker still riding well on La Carreta. Raoul and Stephen Roche. 14 kilometres, Beaufay for the chase, which is also on the top of the Côte now. Well, Van Lancker must feel a little bit frustrated. He hasn't actually been able to have a shot at winning this race again. He was right in the lead group. He paid the price on the climb of the La Redoute. These riders just couldn't raise their effort to the sprinting powers that those other two went up at it. And didn't they go up it too, Argentin and Claude Coquillon? But they recovered and then just couldn't quite find the extra energy needed to close down the gap. The final drink for Coquillon, the champion of Belgium, who's flown the flag today extremely well. There's nowhere left on this course now for Crick to attack. He's going to have to go down to the finish because Argentin will mark him for sure. And there must be some concern about Miguel Indurain. The riders in this breakaway will have been constantly trying to test one another, so I presume that each rider knows the strength of the other at this point in the race. The question is just what has Miguel Indurain got? He put two races down on his programme this year that he wanted to ride well in, Milan-San Remo and the Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He couldn't ride well in Milan-San Remo, he wasn't feeling at all well, but now he's come to Liège-Bastogne-Liège here, and he's put in a great ride. He's read all of the moves correctly. This breakaway forming, don't forget, a long time ago now, back on the Haute Levée. And of the original 10, we're down to just 4. And somebody's gone from the group, and I think it's Raoul Alcala. Well, Raoul has sat at the back. He's not been doing much work, and now he's trying to cross the gap on his own. But it doesn't quite look as though he's firing too well, and in fact it's Stephen Roche who's bringing him back. Now, if only Raoul had put some effort into the chase, you know, I have a feeling these 4 would have come back to the 4 out in front, because they were holding them for so long. But it's all too late now. Alcala's back in that chase group of 4. And we're heading on down towards the finish in Liège, the sharp right turn at the bottom of this road, and then we're heading towards the quay and the finish line. Coquillon is going to have to sharpen his sprint now and take on these 3. Indurain, he might well try and attack before the finish, Miguel, because I don't think he'll have any confidence at all in the sprint. I'm not too sure where he can attack now, because we've only got this flat run into the finish. The finish is actually about 200 metres from where we actually started this morning. We've gone completely around the Ardennes. 23 seconds and 2 minutes, look, over 2 minutes now back to Phil Anderson's group. Roach group of 23 seconds. They won't be coming back today. The next time they'll see these 3 will be when they look up to the finishing podium. It's only a question of which one will be standing on it. And I can tell you that the whole of Belgium, watching these television pictures, are just standing on the edge of their seats here. They just want, they're willing Coquillon now to win this race. But whichever way it goes, these last couple of races he's had in the Ardennes have been brilliant for him. He rode excellent, so well in the Flèche Wallonne, but But he met a man there that was simply too good, Moreno Argentin. He broke away 70 kilometres from the finish. He fell off just round one of the corners on a very wet surface going downhill. And he must have only been leading at the time he fell by about 20 seconds. But he was up so quickly, they never even realised he'd fallen off. And he went away again, and of course he won. Now, Coquillion will be thinking of that, wondering just what he can do to beat Argentin at the finish today. Twice the Italian champion, by the way, and of course the world champion back in 1986, as I said earlier. He rode the Tour de France last year, but after winning a stage, he also crashed out. And that ruined really his chance of the World Cup, which was won by his team, well, by his countryman anyway, Gianni Bundy. Everybody now is watching one another at the same time as trying to keep the pace respectable, because they don't want that Roach group to come back. And certainly Crick will remember now the last time he was involved in a chase in a leading group was with Stephen Roach in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and it was Argentin who came back because they started talking to each other about who was going to do the work to the finish. And as a result, of course, Argentin came and went and won the race. And this race still being denied Claude Coquillion. He finished second in 1984-5 he finished second, and he's also finished third, but he's never won it. The road shortly now will end in the countryside and will be into the outskirts of Liège. So we're almost at the finish, approaching now the 10-kilometre point. All 10 côtes, little hills around the Ardennes, are now behind the race for another year. And it's been a good race too. Quite a long descent this. It calls for a little bit of skill because you can get up to speeds of 90 kilometres an hour down this stretch of road. It's a good, wide, very smooth surface descent. You can turn the heavy gears, and once you're off this hill, you're going to be into the finish. Still pedaling along at around 45-50 kilometres an hour or more. Sorensen looking very well. In fact, he's sort of saying to Coquillion, come on through, 7 kilometres to go. Finished 8th in the World Championship, Sorensen, back in 1987. The same year he finished second in his own national tour, the Tour of Denmark. But his best win as a new professional really was Tirreno Adriatico, this race in Italy in the early part of the spring in March. And he's done that in 1987. He's turning out to be quite a rider for the classics, because his first crack at Liège-Bastogne-Liège he finished 8th. And he was 4th in the Tour of Flanders. And he won the first big classic came his way when he won Paris Tours at the end of last season. A big sprint finish. Phil Anderson was involved in that sprint finish. But this year he's continued the form. 2nd Milan-San Remo, 3rd in the Tour of Flanders. Miguel Indurain sitting at the back here. He won his World Cup race last year too. The San Sebastian Classic, which is a very nice race in northern Spain. Big circuit, and it was terrifically hot weather then, and it was at that time too. I seem to recall Indurain was away with Marino Lajarreta. He got rid of Lajarreta, and right now he's done the same again, hasn't he? Because Lajarreta's in that chase group behind. Just 5 kilometres left to go now of the 264. no doubt now that the elastic has snapped in that chase group. We're not seeing too much of them. Ever since Raul Alcala put in that spurt to break clear, and has gone back into the group, it does look as though they've lost a little bit of their drive. I know that Stephen Roach will be quite upset about that, because at least he was true to his word when he said he would be in on the decision. He was certainly there. He could have done something on that adute if he'd been in the right position. It could have been. So often happens on a narrow road. You're trapped behind a rider who allows a gap to open, and when you try to go round that rider, you find it's too late. The gap has opened just a little bit too big. Sharp right-hand turn now. Now we're on the run in towards the finish in Liège. Riders know it well. It's only been the last 2 years that we've come down to this finish here. The reason being, we used to finish right down in the centre of Liège, but it was not a good finish. In fact, it was rather a dangerous finish. And the riders are much happier with the organisation over these last couple of years, which has brought the race a little bit out of the town, but that doesn't stop the people coming out to watch the finish. It's on the opposite bank of the River Meuse now. It's just down the road, becomes the River Maas, it goes into Holland and Maastricht. That's the venue for next week's Amstel Gold Race, which finishes in Maastricht for the first time. Well, it's unusual to see a breakaway becoming decisive without a Dutch rider in it, but that's the way it is today. And now the attacks are starting. And surprisingly, it's come from Moreno Argentin, who hasn't left it till the sprint. He's still about 1.2 kilometres from the line here. And Argentin has gone, and it is Criquillon immediately onto him. Well, that's not surprising, because Crick is marking Argentin everywhere he goes, and it looks like it's been a dummy. And now the 1-2 for the Ariostoia, that's to be expected. And look at this. Well, to me, Sorensen had it there. There was no reaction from Crick at all. And Sorensen just went and sat up as soon as Indurain had his wheel. And it's put now the team leader of the Ariostoia, who's loosening off his left leg there, at the back of the group. Now they'll have to be careful here. If they start slowing down, then the chase group with Roach and Co will be on them. It's still around 20 seconds, that gap. And it's still a fair way to go to the finish too. Well, the one man I expected to attack didn't do so, Miguel Indurain. Instead, it's been Argentin, followed by Sorensen. And Criquillon must feel as though the whole world is up against him right now. Doesn't know which way to look. He wants to know where Argentin is. They'll do well to keep an eye out behind them too, because the group behind is closing in. Briefly out of our sight as they go under this underpass. And then they'll be back into our sight and lining up for the finish. Still no sign of the chase group there from our helicopter, and 4 riders very much back together. Criquillon, the far right of the road now, almost toying with them, tempting them to come and get him. Then he starts to wind it up, and immediately Argentin follows him. Indurain looks for the wheel and finds it. Sorensen struggles a little bit and stays at the back. And Criquillon shrugs his shoulders. No, that was Argentin, and now it is Sorensen. Sorensen then goes down the right of the road now, and they've let him go. Sorensen has gone. It's left to Indurain to chase him now because of the rivalry between these two at the back. And Sorensen has gone now and could well be taking this. Indurain is about to catch him. So 2 riders, and again he sat up. So again he said it's almost as if he is riding this race for Argentin and doesn't want to go himself, because Criquillon seems to be content to mark only Argentin. And they're watching because they're coming, believe me, they're coming. Well, as they approach the finish now, this is still very much anybody's race. But they're about 12 to 15 seconds behind, no more than that, and Criquillon is doing well to be concerned. Argentin preparing for the final burst for the line. Indurain has been given the front now. Sorensen just tapping over there, keeping the pace at least a little respectable. They're underneath the 1 kilometre kite to go there. But It's a long road this, it's an excellent finish, but it really is a road that must be judged to perfection. And Argentin again has got the position he wants at the back, but he can keep an eye on every one of them. Crick is just ahead. It does seem as though Sorensen is almost willing Argentin to win this race. Twice he's attacked and twice, to me, he's had the break, but he's never pursued it. Heading up towards the finish now. And you see the official car has gone through and he wants to pull out everybody behind. There they are, kicking them all out, because the group now is almost on their back wheel. It's about 10 seconds the gap between these four and the Roach group. So the chase after all these kilometres is now coming down to almost 8 men. Last little climb in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Van Lancker was alone when he came up that climb 1 year ago. Now he's in the group behind, because once they flick onto the road here, they'll see the finishing line. Sorensen in the lead, and it's Sorensen who's going to lead out now. Crick is going in the centre, and Argentin to our left is now giving everything he's got here. Indurain is out of it, but it looks like Argentin is going to take on Claudio Coquillon. This is an inspired sprint by Coquillon, but it's not good enough. Moreno, Argentin, and a salute there too from his teammate Rolf Sorensen, and a congratulatory pat on the back from Claudio Coquillon. The same 1-2 that we had just a couple of days ago, and Moreno, Argentin delighted. But what a superb ride by the champion of Belgium in his final Liège-Bastogne-Liège. You have to feel sorry for Claudio Coquillon today. They're the two boys who did it just right. Stephen Roach is in now. The 10 seconds was the final gap for Stephen Roach, and he came in 8th place. That was a terrifically hard chase just after Latitude, wasn't it?
But if some of the guys had maybe believed more in their chances, maybe we would have been able to get back. Yeah. But I don't think the lads really believe we could get.
Are we seeing the start of the form of 87?
I think it's... I can finish 8th today, I think. In 81, my first year pro finished 8th as well. Maybe I have another 10 years to go, yeah.
The second generation of Stephen Roach. Well done.
Second start.
Stephen Roach, what a nice man he is. And there's Moreno, Argentin, who has become one of the champions of the Ardennes over the years now. This is his 4th Liège-Bastogne-Liège. And Stephen Roach, well, he'll be back again later this season, I would suspect. And Argentin now joining Eddie Merckx and Stan Ockers and Ferdy Kubler as the man to do the double. Back in the hotel, Pedro Delgado, all ready to go back to Spain, and happy with the form. Phil Anderson, who was chasing just around a minute for most of the race.
You know, just didn't have the legs today, you know. You know, it's pretty that... Yeah, maybe if I had some other guys there, you know, might have been able to do it a little better. I know how to do a bit of work myself.
So this has been a great Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and it has found an exceptional winner in Moreno, Argentin, who finishes just ahead of Claudio Coquillon and Rolf Sorensen.
Disappointed now, but because we won the race, there's always a little, you always say, maybe I could have won, you know, but the team won, that's very important, and a fellow like Argentin, which is a guy who you can trust, and he will always give it back to you in another time. Now I'm leading the World Cup, and he's going to help me when the problem is going to come.
Claudio Coquillon can leave the Ardennes with his head held high. 2 second places, both to the same man, and what a superman that Moreno, Argentin turned out to be this year. Unbeatable was the word, and Claudio Coquillon will have to think about that for the career which ends at the end of this season. Here's the sprint again. Miguel Indurain already out of it and hitting the front, Moreno, Argentin. Claudio Coquillon really did try, but he was still half a length to the worst. Salute too from Rolf Sorensen, who keeps his lead and increases his lead in the World Cup competition. So confirmation of the result: Moreno, Argentin, the 267 kilometres in 7 hours 15 minutes. Second, Claudio Coquillon. Third was Rolf Sorensen. Fourth, Miguel Indurain. Fifth, Eric Van Lancker. And sixth, Raoul Alcalá. So from the Ardennes, and until the next time we meet, it's goodbye.